Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and it is the end of 2019. As is tradition, starting this week, the Tested team will be sharing their favorite things that they've learned about, bought, or discovered throughout the year. And I'm gonna kick things off with something that was released this year. And a lot of people have been asking, what's your favorite VR headset this year? Surprise, surprise, it's not the Oculus Quest, which I do think is probably the most important VR headset of this year, but the one I'm finding that I'm going to and playing games in on a regular basis, it's the Valve Index. I am at heart a PC gamer. I'm playing games off of my computer, and yeah, you can use the link cable for the Quest, but I love the comfort, I love the visual fidelity, and I love the Valve Index controllers. Can't wait for Half-Life Alyx next year. We're gonna stick with VR a little bit. Earlier this year, we also did a VR video project, and it got me thinking a little bit about capturing 180 stereo video, whether you wanna call it VR or not. The camera we used for that was a high-end prosumer camera called the Zcam K1 Pro, but there are plenty of other 180 VR stereo cameras that you can buy right now that basically operate like a point and shoot. And my favorite one to use is this right here. It's the Insta360 Evo, and it works as both a VR 180 stereo camera, or you can actually press the button and it folds and then does a mono 360, and it knows what configuration it's in, stitches it in the app. And I've been using this a lot in the home because I also have a new baby. He's maybe one of my favorite things of the year, but I won't bog you down with too much baby stuff. What I've actually been doing is we've been filming the baby once every month, and it's a transformative experience. We take a lot of photos with of the baby with DSLR, with our phone cameras, but filming him in VR 180 and being able to watch that, whether in headset or through one of these accessories that comes with this camera, it lets us really re-experience his growth and how transformed he is month to month. It's so different every 2 weeks that we love documenting that and then seeing how not only how he looks, but also how he's actually behaving. And it's been one of my favorite things to do this year. One more piece of VR, we later on in the year started doing some mixed reality videos. We started experimenting with the Live app, and one of the things that we bought to work with that was this little capture device. It's from Elgato. This one's the Cam Link, 4K, and it's super simple. You have HDMI on one side, USB on the other side, and so it does capture essentially from whether it's your DSLR, if you have HDMI out, or even the camera that we're filming with right now, and that goes right into your PC over USB. A lot of streamers use something like this to do capture from their consoles, and then you can use the software with green screening and keying to do something like mixed reality. Super simple part and kind of essential if you want to be capturing video and doing something like Twitch streaming today. On the camera side, I don't have another camera recommendation, but I do have an accessory recommendation. This was something I learned from our friend, toy photographer Sergeant Bananas, aka Johnny, and he introduced me to the Lume Cube set of tiny lights. These are wonderful, even if they're not just for toy photography. If they're LED lights, are very powerful, and the accessories that come with them essentially allow you to turn your tabletop into a miniature photography studio. Keyword being miniature, because I'd be doing something like toy photography. You have gels, change the color temperature. There are many degrees of brightness, and you have accessories like diffusers. You have these barn doors and little snoots. And at the scale of things like 1/6, 1/10, 1/12, it really feels like you have the power of an airy light, right? Except at the tabletop scale. This is the Travel Photographer's Kit, which comes with 2 of these lights. They do get a bit heated, so I would combine these with like a Joby GorillaPod or some type of small tripod with a 1/4-inch screw mount to operate that. Really fun and takes your miniature photography to a whole new level. I will have one baby recommendation. It's actually off camera right here. If you are going to be a new parent, one of the things I wish someone had told me about is this car seat. It's from the company called Doona, D-O-O-N-A. And not only do I like the look of this car seat, it's very rugged, it's rated to be very safe, but it doubles as a stroller. Yes, instead of having to buy 2 things, 2 expensive things, you can buy one thing that you can travel with. It's a transformer. Actually, I'll show you. Boom, now it's a stroller. and baby is good to go. We took it cross country for Thanksgiving to Indiana. I've taken it to LA. It will work up to, baby's up to about 30 pounds, so a year and a half, depending on how big your baby is. But this is one of those things I wish we had gotten for when we first had the baby last year. We got it in the middle of the year and have been making the most out of it. Now, it wouldn't be a norm video if I didn't have a collectible to talk about, and while I've bought many of those this year, one toy I want to put a spotlight on is something from an artist I'd never heard of before this year. This is a wonderful figure from 3A, and it is from the artist, a Chinese artist named Zaodao. I'd never heard of her before. She doesn't even really have an Instagram, but I saw this listed on one of the places I normally shop for my figures, and it was so striking. I then did a deep dive and bought one of her art books from the Gallery Nucleus website, and it's like it's a whole new world of artists that I haven't been exposed to. There's a little bit of a Miyazaki chibi style to her work, but it's all done with ink brushes, and so that media combined with that aesthetic is so wonderful. Her book has just these wonderful creatures, characters. They are right out of historical fantasy, and this figure here with this child riding what looks like a giant flea monster, but also some cotton that you then use to make it look like a cloud. I just adore this, and also really fun to photograph. Now we're gonna move on to some of the coffee table books. This one recommended. In general, exemplar of independent artists putting out and working with some independent publishers, collections of their works. It's not a graphic novel, it's not a sketchbook, but it's really just a compendium of just individual pieces that maybe have a cohesive aesthetic theme, but not necessarily tied together in the stories. A lot of artists put out books like that, and I recommend supporting them directly. But more traditional coffee table books, this one I love. It's a collection of cross sections. It's called Look Inside. We're gonna look inside it right now. I'll show you a few pages, but it's wide-ranging cross sections from architectural drawings of famous buildings to engineering diagrams to even pieces from like friend of Tested Jason Freeney and the kind of anatomical cross sections he does. It really is taking that one idea of what it means to take and look into a slice of an object, whether it's through photography, through illustration, through painting, or through computer drawing, and really go showcase all the different artists who work in that format. Really love this coffee table book. In the pop culture world, got a few more books as well. This one is also independently published. It's called Engineering and Empire. One of our favorite TV shows on Netflix of the past 2 years is The Toys That Made Us. And if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Deep dives into the making of things like the Star Wars toys, Transformers, Ninja Turtles. And if you ever watch one of those episodes and wanted to deep dive more into the backstories, this book is for you. This one specifically is about the Star Wars Kenner figures, and it profiles all the engineers and executives who worked at Kenner when the first toys were released, not only the prototypes that are featured here, but also the memos, the notes, the sketches. And this was created by fans and released at this past year's Star Wars Celebration, and you can also buy it from them directly. I love making of movies books. There was the making of art books, but one making of movie book that I think stands out this year is the making of Solo, a Star Wars story. Regardless of whether you like the film or not, I love this book. It was done by the effects supervisor from ILM, Rob Brado, and he had access. He wasn't the stills photographer, he was the effects supervisor. He had access to everything. And so this book is his journey through production when he was brought on by Ron Howard to finish the film. And he's a wonderful photographer, a great eye, and he was able to capture from his perspective what he needed for the visual effects, a collection of hundreds of images, whether it was on set, whether it was at the prop departments, and one of Tested's contributors, Kate Sabaker, is even featured in this book. A lovely, lovely book, not just about the art and pre-production, but actually the making of the film, being on set, one of the things that we like to do here at Tested. J.W. Rinsler is he's a prolific writer that I really like. He did the making of the Star Wars books, the original trilogy. These massive tomes that were released a couple of years ago, and now he's taken his research skills and writing to the making of Ridley Scott's Alien. This is a massive coffee table book that I've barely had a chance to dive into, but it's one of those, like, if you want the definitive history of the Thinking of a beloved classic film, you can't go wrong with a book written by J.W. Williams, or anything from him I'm bound to get. But my favorite coffee book this year, it's from Taschen. I know it's a little bit cliche to choose a Taschen book because they just do massive coffee table books. But my favorite TV series this year was Disney Plus's The Imagineering Story. And if you enjoyed the 6-part Imagineering story about the making of Disney parks, Disneyland, and all the Imagineers and their story, that's chronicled, at least from Disneyland, in this book, Walt Disney's Disneyland. It has the photographic equivalent of the behind-the-scenes video we saw in the Imagineering story, and it goes ride by ride, development of all those wonderful things that make Disneyland so fun and wonderful, and I really love going through this book. So a few of my favorite things this year. We'll have many more to come in the coming weeks. Wish you all a happy Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2020. Thanks.